Web Marketing That Works podcast, episode 72. Today's guest is Dov Gordon.
Welcome to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Come behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments and listen in as amazing guests confess the truth about what really works. Now, here are your hosts, Adam Franklin and Toby Jenkins.
I'm Adam Franklin, and you are listening to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. This is the show for people who love marketing on the web. You'll be taken behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments where we look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. We confess what's failed and reveal the truth about what really works. The show is brought to you by our book, which is also called Web Marketing That Works, and it's brought to you specifically by the 33 free marketing templates that go with it. So to get your hands on those, please head to bluewiremedia.com.au/book. Okay, so today's guest, Dov Gordon. Dov helps consultants, experts, and small professional service firms build a steady, consistent, and predictable flow of clients. Now, that is such an important thing for business owners and for marketers, because the whole purpose of marketing is to be delivering a steady flow of leads, and hopefully then sales can then happen. Now, Dov, for several years, led a CEO peer advisory group that attracted the CEOs of many leading companies with between $10 million and $150 million in annual revenue. At a number of these and other companies, Dov worked side by side with senior management to reformulate their company's strategy or to design and develop the management organization. Then in 2010, Dov turned his attention to helping small business entrepreneurs who love what they do but are having trouble getting enough customers. He helps these owners build simple marketing and sales systems that bring in all the customers they want. Now, Dov and I have known each other for a few months now, and as you'll find out in the show, I'm a member in one of his mastermind groups, which meets online on a monthly basis for live phone calls, and also there's always discussions going on via email. It's a really powerful group, and it's been very effective for Dov's business as well, and he's going to talk more about that in the show today as one of the key marketing activities that he's done that has just been really impactful on his business. And it's something that no one else has even brought up on the show before. So some real gold in the show today. So with that, let's head on over to the interview with Dov Gordon. Hello, it's Adam Franklin here, and I'm excited to be joined by Dov Gordon. How are you, Dov?
Very well, thank you, Adam.
Whereabouts in the world are you joining us from today?
I'm currently in Israel. I'm from the United States. I grew up in New York, and I've been living here for the last probably 17 years.
Well, a very big welcome from Brisbane in sunny Queensland in Australia, and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. So, Dov, would you mind giving myself and our listeners a brief overview of your business?
What I do is I work with experts, consultants, coaches, people who have a product that has an expertise aspect of it to create a consistent flow of ideal clients. I can keep rambling if you want, or you can ask me a question.
No, that's a great start. A steady and consistent flow of ideal clients. Now,
yes.
Does that include online activities and offline activities?
Yes, we are tactic agnostic around here. We don't come forward and say, oh, everyone's got to be on LinkedIn, everybody's got to be doing AdWords, everyone needs to do SEO. We believe that all tactics can work and all tactics can fail, and everybody listening has probably experienced some of both. And what we believe is that there's something more fundamental that determines whether your tactics are going to work or not. And that's what we focus on. And then we support people in whatever tactics they choose to build and develop for themselves. You know, sometimes they need some additional, tactic-specific training or support, and they'll find that wherever they find that. But there's generally a huge difference between people who have done the prep work or the groundwork, the foundation work, and people will just dive right into a tactic because it caught their attention and everybody's doing it.
Yes, tactical hell isn't a nice place to be if there's no overarching strategy. But in your words, Dov, what does it boil down to? What's that fundamental stuff that business owners and marketers need to understand for the tactics to actually work?
Okay, good question. And the way I see it is that there are 3 jobs that any marketing and selling system has to do. So if you're using the internet or offline to market your business, that means you're trying to get your message in front of your ideal clients and you want them to respond with interest, right?
Yes.
Now, the good news is that there are only 2 things that anybody is interested in. So your ideal clients are only interested in 2 things. They're interested in a problem that they have and don't want, and or a result they want and don't have. And therefore, the way we teach it is that your marketing system has to answer 3 questions. These are the only 3 questions that your ideal clients are asking themselves, and it has to be in sequence. We can walk through those 3 questions if you like.
That would be fantastic if you could.
Yeah, sure. So the first question that anybody has when they come across your message is, should I pay attention? Is this interesting? Should I pay attention? Is it interesting? And it's important to realize that there's a difference between attention and interest. So a lot of things will get your attention. It could be a loud noise will get your attention until you realize it was, the wind blowing the door shut, nothing to worry about. But something gets your interest when, as I said before, if it's talking about a problem that they have and don't want, and or a result they want and don't have. So the first part of the marketing and selling system is really about getting crystal clear about a problem that you have, that your ideal client has and doesn't want, a result they want and don't have, and choosing that you're going to make that the focus of your marketing and selling system. I think a lot of people get stuck on this because they say things like, well, we help you get more business from your website. Is fine, but if you go deeper, you'll be more specific and you'll be more powerful. For example, if you have somebody, you're trying to find a client and they believe that they should be able to get more from their website, right? So the question becomes, well, what do they believe is causing the problem that they're not getting enough sales from their website? So it could be that we don't have enough traffic. It could be they feel we don't really understand our customers and our messaging is all wrong. It could be they feel that our website looks like it's built 15 years ago, so the image is all wrong. And if each client has in their own mind a different reason why it's not working for them. So it's not enough to approach somebody and say, hey, we'll help you get more clients or customers from your website, because everybody says that, and you sound like everybody else. But if you peel off a layer, go 1 or 2 layers deeper, and then you have a much more focused message, that is the beginning of a message that helps you stand out. That's the level that they're thinking in their own mind. They're worrying about, how do we find someone to make this website correct? I want to do it right. Or how do we get more traffic to the site? Because our problem, if we just had more traffic than everything else, right? You can take that even deeper with the traffic part. They can say, well, our problem with traffic is we're not on the first page of Google. We're not, one of the first few results for our keywords. Or they could say, we're spending money on pay-per-click, but it's bringing the wrong people, or it's too expensive. So you have a much better chance of getting your ideal clients when you understand which of these deeper level problems they're likely to have, and then you use that as the basis of your marketing system. Because then when their brain asks that first question, should I pay attention? Is it interesting? Is it interesting? Their brain says, oh, yes, it is interesting, because he's talking about exactly what's worrying you. Make sense?
It does. It does. So once they've decided to pay attention, decided it's interesting, what's then the second component?
So as soon as their brain says, yes, this is interesting, they instantly have a new question. And that new question is, okay, you got me interested, but can I trust you? Are you for real? And that's why the second thing that you want to be able to offer them or to give them is some kind of hand-raising free offer usually, or it could be a podcast like this where people get to know you both as a host and as a guest, something that is easy for them to say yes to, either because it's free or it's clearly a good deal, and it helps them begin to solve their problem and or begin to get their result. Because when they could begin to solve their problem, then their brain says, well, I can trust you. You really do know your stuff. And then, of course, they have that third question. The third question is, well, what do you recommend for me? Because they realize that if they want to fully solve their problem, fully get the result, they're going to need something more from you than just what you gave them for free. So they say, well, okay, is it right for me? What do you recommend for my situation? And that's where you have the opportunity to have what we call the elegant sales conversation. If you then help them see that, yes, what you recommend is right for me, then congratulations. Your marketing and selling system has helped them answer yes to all those three questions, and now you have a new client. Of course, the challenge is putting in place the tactical pieces, to get the deep insight, and then the tactical pieces to help convey that insight at each stage, so that you help them answer yes to each question. Was that clear?
That is very clear. And it rings true, actually, because particularly that second part, I'm interested, and now can I trust you? And you do so, as you said, by getting them to raise their hand. And in my personal experience, I have found that very valuable to be, in my case, publishing templates to my website that people are free to download. And by doing so, I've found that by delivering value and helping them solve one of their problems, which might be as simple as downloading an editorial calendar to plan out their marketing, or it might be to download some social media guidelines so that they can actually fill in the blanks and tailor it to their own organization. I find that just by being able to deliver that first little bit of value for free, it really helps fast track that trust. And I guess it also attracts the right type of person who's prone to action, as opposed to somebody who may not necessarily be searching for a template. For my audience, actually means that they're looking to actually execute something and do something, which I guess leads them to that third part of the elegant sales conversation. In an online world, Dov, does an elegant sales conversation have to take place one-to-one or in real time, or can that also be done via, say, YouTube or via audio recordings? What's your experience there?
That's a good question. And, there's more than one way to succeed, right? So it definitely can, the fundamental elements of it can be conveyed through a sales letter. And having said that, I've talked to people, every now and then I talk to somebody who tells me that they really want just an online-only business. I spoke to someone recently who said that, and I said, well, do you happen to know any of the kind of people you're looking to sell to? Oh, he doesn't know them. I said, well, I really think that you first want to have at least a handful of conversations to really come to understand how they think about their problem and their results. And he's like, well, I really want this to just be an online-only business. I was hoping to try to avoid those kind of things. And I said to him, you want to know the truth? If you can't sell this face-to-face or over the phone, you'll not be able to sell this online. I said, you can go ahead and try and maybe prove me wrong. And if I am wrong, great. But I've never yet met somebody who was successfully selling anything online when they couldn't sell it face-to-face or over the phone. That's part of the answer.
Okay, so would you suggest two people that master the skills of selling face-to-face and then gradually evolve to being able to do that in an online format?
I think so. I definitely think there's a lot to it. We have a free recording. I'll try to find the link if you want. I could share it.
Yeah.
It's called How to Elegantly Control Your Next Sales Conversation. If you go to dovgordon.net/sell more, people can get session 1. It's a $500 program. Session 1 has helped people. I got someone tell me, even though session 1 I'm giving away for free, I've had someone tell me that it was more valuable than a $10,000 sales consultant that he used. So we do have lots of people get a lot out of session 1. Of course, the rest of the sessions take the skills even further, but people will get an awful lot out of session 1. So it's not so much that you have to master offline sales first, but that it's really, it depends what you're selling, right? I imagine that people aren't going to just click on a button on your site and say they want to buy your consulting, because maybe that works for a product, but at some point, if you want to sell something above a certain price, you're going to have to talk to people. So if someone is just looking to sell relatively low-priced digital information products, or other products, that's fine. But if it's coming to a point where you want to be marketing consulting projects that will be worth, tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're going to have to talk to you. If you're looking to sell a product that's probably $2,000-$3,000 and more, they're going to want to talk to you, and you should want to talk to them.
I agree, because I actually find there's so much that you can learn. I think doing consulting as part of your business model is such an important part, because you get that face-to-face interaction with the client, and you can really dive deep and understand their business and their challenges, and that is such valuable intelligence, not only for that specific project to deliver good value for the client, but really to then take that knowledge and bake that into your online programs where you may not actually have a face-to-face component, but I think being on the front lines of working with clients is a critical part.
Yeah. Lots of people have been sold a dream thinking that they can build this amazing online business that they won't really have to work more than an hour or two a day. And they discover at some point that it's really a fantasy. And many of us have had to go through some stage, including me to some degree. I never quite believed it fully, but to some degree you think that, oh, this shouldn't be that hard. The truth is it's going to be harder than you expect. And it's going to require you to learn and master certain skills. And it's going to require you to do certain things that maybe you don't really want to do. Why? Because that's life. And what we can do, and this is what we help people do, is I tell them, listen, I can't change the very laws of life. I can't, but I can certainly make it easier and faster for you. Right? But there are people out there who are making big promises about how, hey, life is going to be all easy and so on. Just pay me $2,000. And the customers they get are not the customers that I want. So that's okay. But the bottom line point I think we were getting to is that, yes, want to talk to people.
Yeah, want to talk to people. And I guess it's a matter of attracting the right people and making sure the expectations are realistic. So I guess some people are drawn to the quick and easy promises, but I mean, as you say, the reality is it's a lot harder than we all expect at the start, and it takes a lot longer than we expect at the start. And I think there's certainly value in making it quite clear in the sales copy or the sales message or those one-on-one conversations that, yes, there is quite a bit of work. I can take you through the steps and I'll guide you, but to make it quite clear that the types of clients that we do work best with or that do get the best results realize that it is a two-way street. And yes, you're there as a coach or a mentor or a guide, but there's a hell of a lot of effort that actually goes into building these types of systems.
So, now, it doesn't mean that you can't get to a place where you have a business that is bringing you a very nice income and you're maybe working what most people would consider half day or so. I think that's definitely possible, and I know some people doing that. And I could see that in my future as well if I want to. Not sure. I'm quite enjoying what I do. So definitely a possibility, but there's some line that some people cross where they're actually just fooling themselves. And they need to become aware of that as quickly as possible so they can step back and then actually start moving forward.
Sure. So Dave, let's have a look at some of the marketing experiments and the good, the bad, and the ugly. In your own personal experience or your experiences with clients, what are some of the things that have worked particularly well?
Well, we tend to follow the philosophy that I shared, which is, or I began to share, which is, I don't necessarily believe in doing lots of things at once. I believe in picking a tactic, maybe two tactics. Once you've done the foundation work, which is, like I started talking about it earlier, but there are a number of steps that come underneath that. Then once you do that foundation work, then you get to the point where you say, okay, how are we going to get noticed? How are we going to get out in front of our ideal clients? And at that point, that's where tactics come into play. And I believe that most people are trying to do too many tactics. And it's really difficult to create effective systems and to master. Well, first you want to master it and then systematize it. So I've been focusing pretty much on one tactic primarily. I've dabbled in a few others, but I haven't lost sight of my main tactic, which is joint ventures with other people. Building relationships with other people who have similar audiences, who I respect for their work and the way they run their business and what they offer, and helping each other out.
That's a great philosophy and good discipline there, because I'm certainly guilty of sometimes biting off more than I can chew and looking at all these different new shiny objects, but it takes a lot of saying no, or at least not yet, to things until the original good idea or the original tactic that you've decided to test and ship is actually seen through to completion. Because I notice that a lot of the challenges people have when they come to me is, well, should I do Twitter or Facebook or email or blogging? Or I say, well, look, it doesn't really matter. Pick one and actually give it the time and that it deserves and put in the effort that it deserves, because any of them can work.
Absolutely.
But the discipline to say no is an important one.
People have this idea that there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and there really isn't. There are lots of right ways. There's only one wrong way. The wrong way is to go against the fundamental psychology of what leads people to be interested in you, like to do anything other than answer the three questions we talked about. But there are a lot of right ways to do it.
And I guess if you look at the people who do online businesses or business in general and marketing in general really well, some are brilliant at certain tactics and others don't even touch them. But they all, I guess, get that fundamental stuff right that you're talking about.
Yes. I'll just say one more thing on that. Dan Kennedy is famous for saying that the worst number in business is 1, meaning that you never want to be reliant on one method of bringing in customers. And my only argument with that is that there is a worse number, and that is 0. And there are a lot of people who are kind of struggling to get that first flow of clients. And if someone is struggling to get that first flow of clients, then they need to realize your goal is not 5 on-ramps into your business. Your goal is 1. Get 1 running really smoothly. Then once it's systematized, then you can perhaps delegate more of it or all of it to an employee or somebody else. And then you can add another on-ramp. I'd say also that 5 things that you're doing poorly are not as good as 1 that you're doing well. So, 5 things that you haven't mastered, that you're just running in circles, trying to keep all those balls in the air, that is not going to do for you what doing 1 thing well will do for you.
And do you feel that's what leads to a lot of people failing in their attempts to master these techniques?
Absolutely, because the truth is, at the end of the day, that everybody's business is going to be a little bit different. All the fundamentals and the principles are the same for everybody, but each person is going to have to create the business that's right for them. No such thing as a carbon copy of someone else's business. Even if it's a franchise, which I don't necessarily deal with. So there the odds are perhaps somewhat better, but even there I understand there are issues, but I'm not necessarily so familiar with them. For most people, you're going to have to learn and acquire a certain amount of knowledge. You're going to have to implement and apply that knowledge. And that's where you really, let's say it's information becomes knowledge once it's acted on. And when you've done enough of that, you acquire mastery. That's where you acquire mastery and wisdom. And it's at that point where you really are at a place where you can create your business in a way that's going to work for you and for your ideal clients. And people have to give themselves the time and you got to give yourselves the time and the opportunity to focus on it and to work at something long enough until you figure it out in the right way that's right for you. Because there are a lot of things we can learn in books and training programs and so on. At the end of the day, though, nobody could hand you a business off the shelf. You're going to have to figure it out. There's always going to be some missing pieces, and people have to give themselves the space to figure out those missing pieces, because that's what's going to make it work for them.
Wonderful. It was interesting that you say information acted on turns into knowledge. That action part is so important. Now, Dave, if you were starting your web marketing or your marketing in general from scratch, what would you do first?
I would do what I did the last time around, really, again, which is reach out to people who have relationships or email lists with an audience similar to the one that I want to be in front of, and do like one joint venture webinar, promotion, teleseminar at a time. That's what I've done. And as you know, I created a group for people like that. It is a fantastic strategy that I think more people could follow. It's not something I see people talking about very much. And, maybe it's something that I teach my clients, those who are interested in doing that. Maybe we'll turn it into a product one day. It's an idea. I should write that down. Teach it, train it.
That's a great idea, because it does seem like a very under-the-radar type of approach. You're the first person who's brought it up on this podcast and the first person I've seen firsthand doing it in their business. Can you take us through exactly what you do and how you've grown the concept of this group?
So the idea started with me saying, okay, well, I know from my years of studying Jay Abraham stuff and Dan Kennedy a long time ago that the best thing is to be in a position where you only pay when you've been paid. So you're paying to acquire a customer after you've actually acquired the customer, as opposed to advertising where you're paying upfront whether you acquire a customer or not. So joint ventures offer you that, where, let's say, advertising or other tactics don't. So, and at the time I didn't have any money anyway, so it didn't really much matter. So I decided I was going to grow my business with joint venture teleseminars. And the next question was, since I'm not looking to be all full of hype, and I don't want to work with people who see their lists as a cash machine, there to kind of send money anytime they feel like it. But I'd rather work with people who have more of a respectful view of both their list, their subscribers, as well as their joint venture partners, and a long-term perspective. I started looking around. I joined different forums, trying to find people who I felt shared those views, who had some direct marketing savvy. And I joined a number of forums. I didn't quite find what I was looking for. So I created my own. I reached out to a small handful of people that I'd met online over the previous year or so, invited them to a group, formed a Google group. And I'm not sure if it's 5 or 6 years later. I don't remember exactly when we started, but we now have a nice group. I think we have about 70 people around the world. And, we really help each other out. No one is ever obligated to promote anyone else in the group. It has to be a fit. I don't control anything other than who gets in and who stays in. People have their own deals. There are people in the group who've never promoted me. That's okay. If it's not a good fit, it's fine. We have to. There's a lot more to it than that. So, I guess there definitely is room for a training program. So,
I definitely agree with you there. It sounds like a really good program that no one else that I've come across is teaching. So, it's a virtual group of people with similar interests and similar philosophies all around the world. What is it that you feel in the 5 or 6 years that you've been facilitating the group? What do you think it is that makes it so valuable? And I'll leave it at that.
I'd say 2 points I'll make to answer that. Number one is that the quality of people. My feeling was that I'm always interested in high quality people, whether they're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And to me, high quality is somebody who's always out there learning, doing, and happy to share both what works and what doesn't work. They check the ego at the door. I'm here to learn. I'm here to help you. I want you to help me. And here's what I can share. Here's what I've learned from this mistake, and here's what I've learned from this success. So the quality of people, again, whether they're beginner, intermediate, advanced, because if you have a high quality beginner, they will quickly move forward and they'll be able to help you, and you'll be able to help them. So that's the first point that came to mind. The second point, I'm trying to remember.
We can loop back, and if it comes back to you, Dov, we'll
ask me the question again. Maybe. What was the
okay.
question?
So what was it? What is it about this idea of having a joint venture group that's actually distributed around the world and it's entirely virtual? What's one of the characteristics that you feel makes it work so well?
Okay, so I said the quality people.
Yeah.
It was this. It was that I think another mistake I've seen people make when they try to do something like this is they aim too high. So when I started this group, I reached out to people who were either a little bit ahead of me or a little behind me. And we've grown over the years to the point where, as you know, we have some really high-profile people in the group right now. I'm not going to name drop, but we have some really impressive people in the group simply because we have grown to their level to where they want it. Whereas when people start out and they're trying to get big names in, it's just not going to work. You're setting yourself up to fail. You're trying to take things so much better by just working with people who are where you are. So that was the other point.
Wonderful. I'm glad that came back to you, Dov. That's a good point. Who are some of the people that you learn from personally?
Who are some people? So, I'm reading lots of books. I enjoy reading about historical figures, read lots of biographies of presidents of the United States, because that gives me both history as well as profile of some really impressive people. Over the years, I've learned a lot from Alan Weiss. I'm learning from David Nagel. Let me see who else comes to mind. There are lots of people.
Yeah, you mentioned Jay Abraham earlier in the podcast.
Jay Abraham.
Was he one of the first person, one of the first marketing people you studied or you learned from?
Certainly one of the early ones, but and I would listen to his some of his tapes again and again and again to really,
Me too.
Really master it.
He was great.
And I'll tell you, when people, I find that the clients who tell me that's what they do with my stuff, they're the ones who are making the greatest progress because they're really studying it. They're not just going through it. They're having the material go through them. Big difference.
It's a huge difference because I went to Jay Abraham as one of the first people that Toby and I learnt from as well. And it was probably a decade ago now when we were starting our business. And we went to see him in person when he came to Sydney for a 2 or 3 day boot camp. And we also got his program of CDs back in the day because it was kind of before you could just have podcasts and listen to them on your iPhone. But I used to live at the Gold Coast and then commute to work in Brisbane, which was about an hour's drive. If it was rush hour time, it would be closer to 2 or 3 hours. But I would relish that time because I'd stick. It's real geeky from a marketing point of view, but I loved it because I'd stick in the Jay Abraham programs and just cruise into Brisbane and just absorbing all of his work. And as you say, I'd listen to it multiple times because it was just that valuable. And I think when you actually listen to things a second or a third time, different components of it resonate with you more because you might be that slight bit further through your journey and the more advanced stuff actually jumps out at you. So, no, totally agree with you there.
Yep.
Okay, so there's some of the people you've learnt from in person and via their work. Now, finally, Dov, have you got any closing thoughts, final pieces of advice, or anything else you'd like to get off your chest before we call it a day?
I really think that people have to not worry about trying to do everything and instead focus on mastering a few things. Really, mastering a few things is really what will help you stand out. I don't know everything. I'm not good at everything, but there are a few things that I've really mastered that make me very valuable to some people. And that's another point, is you don't have to be valuable to everybody. You need to be valuable to a small number of people who want what you can help them with, and they'll pay you well for it. I'd say focus on mastery. One more other thing is it really, over the last 20 years, let's say maybe 20 years ago, I probably heard for the first time, it's all in your mind. I've come to understand it at a whole much deeper dynamic, and it really is all in your mind. You know, I'm teaching my clients in the Planning Clients program what I call the mental toughness drill. But if anybody, I'd recommend people pick up a copy of Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way. Yes. I think that should be taught, required reading in high schools, because I'm out of high school. If you've studied that, you know that things are not going to go the way you want them to, and that anybody who is succeeding has already been through all sorts of, challenges and so on that the media doesn't make obvious. And we come away, especially with all the media today, thinking that there are these overnight successes. And his book really helps you understand that if you're going to get anywhere, you're going to get what you want, where you want to be, you're going to have to learn some mental toughness, and you're going to have to learn how to navigate all sorts of obstacles. And it's not you. I'll end with this. A lot of people end up thinking that, oh, it's something wrong with me. I'm missing something. No, it's not you, the person. It's your process. It's the way you're going about it. It's the way you're thinking about it and the way you're then going about it. And that's why I highly recommend The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Great book.
It's a fantastic read. I agree with you there. It should be, because it's a short read. It's easy to read, but it's so powerful. And if that's something that you read when you finished school, it would. If I had read it, if it was around back then, it would have been incredibly valuable, as it has been since I read it last year. Now, Dov, how can listeners connect with your best material and your best thinking?
Well, if anyone goes to dovgordon.net, dovgordon.net, they can get a copy of a recording or a seminar that I used to teach live. I do now just record it. It's called The 5 Steps to a Consistent Flow of Clients, and they can listen to it right away. The 5 Steps to a Consistent Flow of Clients, which is good, very good, I think. Okay, turned on the light for lots of people. And they can also get what we mentioned earlier, dovgordon.net/sell more, which is how to elegantly control your next sales conversation, session 1.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I will definitely put those links in the show notes. I've been studying your material, Dov, and I really like the generous approach that you take and the thoughtful, methodical approach that you take to marketing too, and the sincerity and the authenticity of it too in an online world where, as you say, there's lots of hype. You deliver the facts and you deliver it in a humble way that is very, very valuable and very powerful to me personally. So thank you from me, and thanks on behalf of our listeners, and you have yourself a great afternoon.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. And that's a wrap for my chat with Dov Gordon, coming to us from Israel today. Now, that was fascinating because Dov's got a very methodical and systematic approach to building a sales and marketing system. And it doesn't have any hype, which is great. I love that. But it follows a very deliberate process, and based on a deep understanding of the psychology of why people actually buy and that whole process that they go on. And as marketers, it's up to us to provide that journey which they can take themselves on. So recapping some of Dov's points, that first question they ask themselves is, will I pay attention, and do I find you interesting? I like what he said, that they've either got a problem that they have and they don't want, or they've got results that they don't have and they do want. So the carrot or the stick, avoiding problems or chasing results. So as a very first step of that process, I found that interesting. And naturally then, if they are interested, the big question of trust comes up. And that's such an important issue, particularly online, about the face-to-face contact, to get a feel for somebody. So what you're actually publishing online and what people are saying about you online just makes that much difference to how easily and how much people can trust you online. And as I said in the show, I think delivering value with free downloads with information on your blog and with information on YouTube or podcasts can be enabling people to trust you. But it also scales because hundreds of people that could be listening to your podcast or your blog without actually taking any extra time out of your day. But if you've got the information in a body of work that's available online, people can get to know you at their own pace, and it can scale as well. And then finally, it's only after those first two steps of the process that have been done can you then enter into that elegant sales conversation, which I really liked. So I'll be checking out more of his material online. He's sharing that session 1 of his program. I'll put the link in the show notes, but it was dovgordon.net/sellmore. And I also recommend checking out his manual, which is titled How to Systematically and Consistently Attract First-Rate Clients. So all that will be in the show notes. And of course, you can always get your hands on our own 33 marketing templates, which are available online at bluewiremedia.com.au/book. My intent on this podcast is to deliver actionable advice, so your feedback is always welcome. Please let me know via email, adam.franklin@bluewiremedia.com.au, or simply tweet me, Franklin_Adam is my Twitter handle. If you enjoyed the show, and I hope you did, I would love it if you could leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps with our visibility, and that in turn leads to more downloads and helps us get good quality guests on the show. So thank you for listening all the way through to the end, and I look forward to talking with you on the next show.